Hi, I'm Rebecca from Rebecca Paul Photography, and I'm going to teach you 4 things to look for when hiring your wedding photographer. Let's get started. Tip number 1, you're going to be spending a lot of time with your wedding photographer before with engagements and bridals, during the actual wedding day, and after when you're discussing delivery of the photos. So it's really important that you like your wedding photographer. I mean, like, really important. You don't have to like the cake baker. You don't have to like the dressmaker. You don't even have to like the person that you're marrying. You have to like the person that you're marrying, but it's equally as important to like your photographer, because come wedding day, if you're having somebody snap pictures in your face all night, it might be really uncomfortable if you don't feel like you know the person, or worse, you're not really crazy about them. It will show on your face, and you don't want that in all of your wedding photos. So when you're considering booking a photographer, don't be afraid to ask them to jump on a phone call with you, or to ask to meet up for coffee, because hearing a person's voice or seeing them in person really kind of helps set the tone of how the relationship will be. And I mean, you got to see if you vibe or not. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is a little more serious than tip number 1. So you want to be sure that your photographer can shoot in low light situations. Now, this doesn't apply to you if you're having a 45-minute ceremony outdoors during sunset. Not talking to you. But if your wedding is going to take place in a church or in a venue at any point, or at any point during the timeline, your wedding is going to be where there's no sun, you really got to be sure that your photographer can shoot where there's little to no light. So don't be afraid to ask to see images that they've taken in low lighting situations or indoors. And if you notice that those images are mostly in black and white, that's almost always a surefire sign that your photographer isn't comfortable with low light. The use of off-camera flash really broadens up and opens up the type of images that you can shoot during low light situations, and you get your images in color most often, which really kind of sets the mood for pictures that are taken during the party. So that is tip number 2, very important. Tip number 3 is be sure that you like their style. Please don't ask a photographer to shoot in a style that you do not see them showing. If you like the light, bright, and airy, look for a photographer who's great at that. If you like the dark and moody, go for a photographer who does that and shows that on their feed. This is important for you to do because the simple fact that if you're asking a light and bright photographer to shoot dark and moody, you're not going to get the images that you want, and likely the photographer probably will pass you along to somebody who shoots that way anyway. So just be sure that you really look through their portfolio and that you like the style and how they pose the couples. That's really important. So last tip, the delivery. Don't be afraid to ask your photographer how long it takes to get the images back. Also keep in mind that shorter isn't always better, just as longer isn't always better. Sometimes the photographers will take between 1 to 6 months. I know that's a really broad scale. For delivery of images. But with that being said, to know if the timeline that they're giving you matches the quality of images is simply by looking at their portfolio. If the images look sloppy and messy and not very well edited or inconsistently edited, and they're taking 6 months, that's not a good sign, especially if they're taking 1 week. Be sure that the images that you see on their portfolio look cohesive, they all match, they're not sloppy and messy. You're not seeing things like stains on, people's dresses or big signs like that. Take that into consideration when you're discussing timeline. I know for my husband and I, we deliver photos between 2 to 4 weeks depending on the volume of weddings that we're shooting that month. And we do take the time to edit each and every photo. That way they do look consistent. So those are the 4 things I feel are most important when looking for a wedding photographer. So with that, I hope it helps you make the best decision for your wedding day. Be sure to follow me on Rebecca Paul Photography, and congratulations on your engagement, and I wish you the best of days. Mwah. Bye.